Okay, let's talk about the large intestine. Now, I know it's not the most glamorous topic, but stick with me, because it's not just the end of the line for your food. Think of it more like a command center, and every single thing you eat sends a message to that command center, a message that can either build you up from the inside or, well, break you down.
And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? Is your diet actually feeding you and your health, or is it feeding disease? Because, and this is so important, what happens in your colon does not stay in your colon. It affects, believe it or not, your entire body.
All right, first things first, we have got to change how we think about the colon. Let's just toss out that old idea of it being some simple waste pipe. It is so much more complex and, frankly, so much more alive than that. A much better way to think about it is as a high-tech bioreactor. See, by the time food waste gets down there, your small intestine has already grabbed most of the nutrients. The large intestine has a totally different job. It's busy reclaiming water and electrolytes, but its most critical role? It's home to a bustling city of trillions upon trillions of microbes. Now, this massive community is called the gut microbiome, and it's so unbelievably influential. We're talking everything from your immune system to your mood that scientists have started calling it a virtual endocrine organ. What does that mean? It means it acts like one of your other organs, sending out chemical signals and hormones. It's basically a hidden organ that you have to feed and take care of. So, how do we take care of this hidden organ? Well, that leads us to the number one piece of advice we always hear. Eat more fiber. But you know what? It turns out the real story is a little more complicated than that. I mean, we've all heard this a million times, right? From doctors, health websites, our parents. The message is always the same. A high-fiber diet is the ultimate shield for your colon, the key to preventing all sorts of problems. But then, science threw us a major curveball. A huge study from the National Institutes of Health found that, a high-fiber diet didn't actually protect people from developing diverticulosis, those little pouches that can form in the colon wall. So, what gives? Was all that advice just plain wrong? Well, not exactly. The advice wasn't totally wrong, it was just incomplete. You see, fiber's main superpower isn't really about creating bulk to push things through. Its real job, its most important job, is to be the five-star gourmet food for all the good bacteria living in that bioreactor we just talked about. And when those good gut bacteria get to feast on fiber, they produce these incredible compounds. The real hero of the story is something called butyrate. Seriously, think of it as Captain America for your colon. It's the number one fuel source for your colon cells, it calms down inflammation, and it strengthens the gut wall to keep bad stuff from leaking into your bloodstream. It's amazing stuff. Okay, so we've covered carbs in the form of fiber. But what about protein? We always think of protein as the good guy, right? The building block of life. Well, when it gets down to the colon, its role can be a little, shall we say, two-faced.
So inside your gut, your microbes can basically run two different kinds of factories. The good one, the one we want, is called saccharolytic fermentation. It runs on fiber and carbs, and its main product is that wonderful butyrate we just met. But if there's not enough fiber to go around, and a lot of undigested protein makes it to the colon, some bacteria switch over and start up a different factory, proteolytic fermentation. And this factory, well, it produces some pretty nasty stuff, things like ammonia and hydrogen sulfide, which can cause inflammation and even damage your cells.
This harmful process has a name that's frankly just as unpleasant as it sounds. Putrefaction. Yeah, it is essentially the process of undigested protein rotting inside your own colon, all thanks to certain types of bacteria.
And the research connects this directly to what we eat. Diets that are super high in animal protein, especially red meat, basically provide more raw material for this putrefaction factory to get to work. And that leads to a big increase in toxic byproducts, like hydrogen sulfide. Yep, the exact same compound that gives rotten eggs that unique smell. So, we've seen that fiber can be great, and too much protein can be not so great. But what if the biggest enemy of your gut health isn't just about carbs versus protein? What if there's a bigger villain? What if the real bad guy in this story is something way more common in our modern food supply? A whole category of food that's designed, in a way, to just systematically dismantle our gut's natural defenses. Let's talk about ultra-processed foods, or UPFs. These aren't just processed foods. They're industrial formulas that are engineered to be irresistible. But for our gut, they can be a total disaster. They're super low in fiber, packed with sugar and bad fats, and loaded with synthetic additives. I mean, get this, they make up almost half of all calories in many Western diets. And it's no surprise that studies are now directly linking a higher UPF intake with a much greater risk of inflammatory bowel disease. And the how here is really important. It's not just about what these foods are missing, like fiber, it's about what they contain. Certain additives, for example, a very common stabilizer called carrageenan, have actually been shown to directly wear away the protective mucus layer that lines our intestines. That damage can trigger chronic inflammation and what people often call a leaky gut.
Okay, I know, that was a whole lot of bad news. But here's the good news. Our gut is incredibly resilient. So let's wrap this up by focusing on how we can genuinely rebuild that inner ecosystem. And we're going to start by smashing a very popular and, honestly, a very dangerous myth.
Oh, you've seen it. The ads, the celebrity posts, this whole idea that you need to flush out your colon with special teas, enemas, or laxatives to get rid of some imaginary buildup of toxins. Let me be crystal clear. This is a complete and total myth. And look, that's not just my opinion. That is the scientific consensus from top-tier medical institutions like the Mayo Clinic. Your body already has an incredibly sophisticated and powerful detox system. Your digestive tract, your liver, and your kidneys. They are pros at this. They do not need any help from some expensive and unproven procedure. In fact, not only is colon cleansing a waste of money, it can be outright dangerous. The side effects aren't just unpleasant things like cramping and bloating, they can be life-threatening, including severe dehydration, infections, and even tearing the rectum. And tragically, some of these practices like coffee enemas have actually been linked to deaths. It's just not worth it. So what's the real way forward? It's simple, it's backed by science, and it doesn't involve any weird procedures. Number 1, feed your microbiome. Eat a huge variety of different plant fibers. Number 2, add good bacteria to the team by eating fermented foods. Number 3, protect your gut barrier. That means cutting way back on those ultra-processed foods and their additives. And finally, number 4, stay hydrated. All that good fiber needs plenty of water to do its job right. You know, when you boil it all down, it comes to this. Every single meal, every snack, every drink, it's a message you are sending to the trillions of microbes living inside you. So, what's your message today? Are you telling them you're on their team, sending nourishment and support? Or are you sending a message of starvation and conflict? The choice and all of its consequences is up to you.
Let's get right into it. We're talking about your large intestine and what your diet is really doing to it. So, did you know your gut is basically a massive city for about 20,000 different species of microbes? Yeah, it's not just a waste tube. It's more like a high-tech bioreactor where everything comes together. Its main jobs? Absorbing water and vitamins, processing waste, and housing your personal microbiome. Which brings up that whole toxin thing. So, do you actually need a colon cleanse? Well, according to experts like the Mayo Clinic, there's just no real evidence they do any good. In fact, they can be pretty risky. We're talking about some pretty serious potential side effects here. The thing is, your body is incredible. It already has its own cleanup crew built right in. So if toxins aren't the problem, what is? It's something called industrial dysbiosis. And the main cause? You got it, ultra-processed foods, or UPFs, full of all sorts of additives. You can really see the difference. A fiber-rich diet nourishes your microbes and strengthens that gut barrier. But a diet low in fiber, it starves them, damages the gut, and can lead to inflammation. And heads up, it's not just processed foods. Too much animal protein can cause similar problems. Okay, so if cleansing is out, what's the right move? Simple. You've got to feed your gut. And that's where these come in. Short-chain fatty acids. Let's just call them SCFAs. These little guys are superstars. They strengthen your gut barrier and help regulate your immune system. And how do you get more of them? Well, the chart says it all. The answer is fiber. All right, let's break this down into a super simple 3-step guide for a healthier gut. It's all about feeding your microbes diverse plant fibers, adding fermented foods, and staying hydrated. So let's wrap this up. The big takeaway? Stop thinking cleanse and start thinking feed. Because every single meal is a choice. Are you going to nourish those microbes or not?